What's up, Kings? It's Keefe. Recently, I've been rereading The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. This is kind of like a cult hit in the masculinity men's community kind of area. And I was also reading a few other books on similar subjects, and I was reminded of a lot of really important topics and beliefs that men need to have in their lives in order to be successful and have fulfilling lives. So in this video, what we're going to do is go over 5 of those lessons so that you can improve your masculinity and your relationships with women. Now, before we do that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss my new videos, because I put out new videos every single day to help you create your ideal life. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'll start real quick explaining what the red pill is for anyone who doesn't know. The red pill has become this really broad topic to basically mean anything you've become enlightened about, you've seen the truth of. Some people say it even politically now. They've taken the red pill. But what I'm talking about is kind of the OG term for it, which was in the manosphere, the masculine community, was to talk about intersexual dynamics, understanding the truth of women and the truth of being a man that people do not want you to know. So when you take the red pill, you start to see the truth about relationships pretty much. And one critique I do have of the red pill, although I do think just about all of it has worked, I've watched it all work and pan out. One thing I will say is I think they tend to draw motives being a little reductionist. So they tend to think that everything women do is kind of this manipulative, sexualizing attempt to control men. And sometimes I think people are just kind of asleep at the wheel. Like, I think a lot of guys have to go through their development in life, and I think women do as well. And yeah, our biology dictates that, but on some level, I don't think anybody's really motivated by these dark motives that sometimes I think they tend to ascribe to women. And so that's one thing I just wanted to be clear about. But in general, I do think these beliefs, these ideas definitely work, and I've watched them work. And these 5 that I'm getting ready to share with you are incredibly valuable for making sure that you don't crash and burn with women and that you just become the best man you can possibly be. So on to the first one. The first red pill rule is to make yourself your own mental point of origin. Men have been convinced that self-sacrifice is part of being a man, but there's no necessary virtue in that. Like saving a kid from a burning building is great and all this, but as a general rule, like, what makes it so great that you become a doormat and put everybody's needs above your own? How does that make you a great man? What the mental point of origin concept is enlightened self-interest. It's about understanding really that in order for you to help other people, you got to help yourself first. Like, who can help the world more? The guy who made a crap ton of money because he was focused on his purpose and didn't care about what other people thought, and now he's got the money to help people? Or the guy who's constantly giving his time to other things so he never expands and grows his finances because he never put in the work, right? Like, who's actually doing more? It's paradoxically more selfless to be selfish. But the thing is, our society has convinced us that men, our lives are not our own. We need to give it up to women. Whatever women need, we need to take care of that. We need to have duty to our country, duty to this, duty to that. And basically, we are in last place. And this belief system starts to manifest in every part of our lives, where we take a back seat to people. And it's just not a good way of living. But honestly, try. You'll see where that belief is so deeply rooted. When you try to put yourself first, actually try to live with yourself as the top priority, and watch how uncomfortable it is. You start feeling like, gee, I'm such a dick. But honestly, again, rationally ask yourself, what makes me such a dick that I'm prioritizing myself over somebody else? What makes the other person better than me? I'm not saying just screw everybody else, but honestly, everybody's living their lives through their own personal lens, their own perspective, and they're thinking about their needs. So you might as well do the same. You can only negotiate for yourself, right? This is how you create win-win situations. And when you don't do this, you get pushed around, and then you resent people and you don't get where you want to get in life. You need to get comfortable with making yourself the focus, not somebody else, not a girl, not a job, whatever it is, you and your best interest. The second rule is to spin plates. So what this is to stop being monogamous constantly with women. Now, this isn't to say cheat, but it's to say when you're dating, don't imply that you're exclusive with anybody until you are decided that you're ready to do that. And a lot of guys feel really uncomfortable with this because we've been, again, socially conditioned to believe that something is wrong with the fact that we might have options. But again, how does that rationally make any sense? Like, for example, I accepted a job today, and before that I had applied for about 60 jobs, and I had about 5 or 6 interviews, and I picked the job that was best for me. Now, how foolish would I have been if I only applied for one job and I'm like, nope, I'm going to stick with this job. We're going to make sure this one works before I try another job. Like, I would never get a job. It would take so long. And like that would be stupid. That would not be me, again, not making myself my mental point of origin. And that would be foolish. Well, relationships are the same thing. We tend to glamorize these things way too much. But at the end of the day, you're trying to fill a position. If you're trying to get a long-term relationship, the quickest way for you to find the most quality woman for that is to date non-exclusively until you determine who the best of the best is. And you got to understand, on the other hand, even if you choose to, for some moral reason, decide, I'm going to be monogamous with this girl I'm dating, I'm not going to date other girls, even though nothing has been committed to, you're just essentially making the assumption, I'm going to be monogamous. Well, you got to understand, the girl's got plenty of guys. If she's attractive, she's got plenty of guys who want to date her. So it's just foolish for you to do this. Just play the game that women are playing as well. There's nothing wrong with it. This was something that was really difficult for me because I had this social and moral imperative. No, this is wrong. I need to focus on one woman. But here's the thing. It comes from a place of scarcity. Because if you're used to being somebody who doesn't do well with girls and suddenly a girl shows you interest, you start getting scared, and rather than like you don't want to fumble this thing you think you've got, this sure thing. So you put all your energy into it and don't risk anything else. But this again is scarcity mindset, and it's going to make you look needy. It's going to backfire on you. You need to date non-exclusively until you've trained an abundance mindset into yourself. And when you spin plates, that's what you're doing. You're dating non-exclusively. And from this perspective, rather than you trying to lock the girl down, now the girl's going to try and lock you down, and she has to see if she's worth it to you rather than the other way around. And you can have a clear perspective on things, because if you're so focused on one girl, it becomes like the sunk cost fallacy, which is where you're so committed to an outcome happening that you just double down on it and you won't see anything besides the outcome you want to have happen. And the more invested you get, the harder it is for you to back out of it. So you got this one girl, you'll see all these red flags, but you'll justify them because you're only talking to one girl and you're so committed to making it work out. You can see things clearly if you don't get exclusive. And just to be clear, for any of you out there who feel like you have a moral or religious imperative to not do this, I'm not saying you have to sleep with all these girls. In fact, I mean, I'm not personally a fan of one night stands. I don't have a monogamy issue, but I don't really like the idea of one night stands. It just doesn't do anything for me. And if that's you, cool. All I'm saying is if you have the options, now you can see things clearly. Just like if I only had one job offer, I'd feel a lot more scarce, but I had multiple job offers and I applied for a lot of jobs. So I knew there were options. So I came to the perspective of, okay, you need to be the best job for me rather than please give me the job. You see what I'm saying? So it's not about just banging a bunch of chicks. It's about putting yourself in the position to make the best decision possible. The third rule of the red pill is that romance and sex really aren't glamorous. And this is something I think it's kind of an overarching narrative that the red pill does, is it demystifies this topic where our society really, it benefits a lot by getting us to be these idealists about sex and love, because there's Valentine's Day, we can make a bunch of money off that, weddings, but all these things that we make a ton of money off, and it controls a society around this narrative. And plus it's just all lovey-dovey and it feels great. Oh, you complete me, all this soulmate type of stuff. And at the end of the day, what the red pill does is it de-glamorizes this. Because again, just like a job application, what you're doing if you're looking for a relationship is trying to fill a position. This isn't about some like God sent, here's this magical woman. Like, who would actually want to live their lives in this perspective where they have to find a soulmate who's going to complete them? Like, sounds nice, but honestly, that's a really shitty spot to be in, because basically you're incomplete until you find this one person. And again, when it comes to this, maybe you're sitting there thinking, no, it is different. It's not about a job application. This is glamorous. Well, I'd ask you this when it comes to soulmates in particular. How many guys have thought they found their soulmate only for her to cheat on them and leave? Or they get broken up with, whatever the case may be. It just ends up not working out. So you see that, like, you can get irrational and think that someone's your soulmate, but they're not your soulmate. So you know that the soulmate thing's not actually true. Because if they're actually your soulmate and you knew what you were talking about when you said someone was your soulmate, it wouldn't end badly. It would work out, right? Because it was meant to work out. So the point here is this demystifies romance and sex. It makes it what it is. We're animals pretty much at the end of the day, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what courtship is. In fact, romantic love is not really love. It's a lust and a possessiveness and all these things. It's really not a healthy thing necessarily. You want to keep a clear head, and To actually love someone is to love them unconditionally. It's not to love them in this possessive way. And I'm not saying don't indulge in sex and romance and all these things. It's fun, but just see it for what it is. It's not this God-sent thing. It's part of being a human. Now, one thing I will say about this is a lot of guys really struggle to accept this, and when that happens, they get real nihilistic and resentful and bitter about the nature of women and get so upset because they want women to be a certain way that women aren't. They want women to act like they're mommies, and they're not going to. And so then they turn into these like black pill kind of guys or MGTOW, and they get real butthurt about everything. And like take that shit somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're living your life and your perspective is a resentful perspective or a nihilistic perspective, I don't care how logical you think you are, you're missing the point, because life is not nihilistic. Life is not meant for you to be resentful. Accept what is and play the game. Fourth rule is men and women communicate differently. This is really important because guys try to communicate logically to a woman, and I'm not saying women can't think logically, but their primary mode of operation is covert communication rather than overt, and to use emotion and context rather than content. So men try to deduce women to death. This is how they start thinking. Like, they try to get transactional sex and things like that. They're like, well, if I do the dishes, she'll have sex with me, and these kinds of things, rather than understanding how to communicate with a woman the way a woman communicates. Us men, we're problem solvers as our nature, but as that goes, we tend to kind of make conversation kind of boring, and we miss a lot of these sub-communications that women have. So both forms of communication have great benefits to them, but if you want to communicate with a woman properly, communicate to her through her language. This is the same thing. Like, have you ever tried like arguing with your girlfriend? How does that work out for you, right? You think you're making this perfectly logical argument. She doesn't want to hear it. It's all about the emotional context. How are you making her feel? So if you just get into this big argument with her, that's just stupid. You need to withdraw from that situation. This is just one example of this. But if you want to charm a woman, you don't charm a woman by playing 20 questions with her on the date, right? You act like a man. You communicate through your energy, through your emotion. How do you make her feel? That's what she's concerned about. And some guys don't think this makes any sense. But honestly, what's really more important, the content or the context? If it felt great, that's kind of like the whole point of life, right? So I'm not even here to knock either form of communication. Clearly, they're both necessary, or we wouldn't have evolved this way. But it is important for you to be aware of this, because a lot of guys don't understand why a girl doesn't like them. And it's because you're communicating to her like this platonic friend, and you don't know how to sexualize it and make her feel good and communicate with her like she's a woman. And the fifth rule is to make yourself the prize. This goes along with being the mental point of origin. But honestly, guys be begging for a girl. And honestly, if somebody was begging for your attention, what would that make you think? You'd think, okay, this guy or this girl has nothing else going on, right? They have no other option. And honestly, if you're going to beg for me, that means I could probably do better than you. That's what people are thinking. And guys don't understand this. They go around buying flowers, buying chocolate, begging the girl, texting her back constantly, making their whole schedule available for this girl, and they don't understand why she's not interested. People value scarce resources, right? This is why gold's valuable and, other things aren't. I don't know, like copper, something like that. I don't think copper is as valuable as gold. I don't know the minerals like that, to be honest, but you get what I'm saying. Like gold, platinum, all these special kind of minerals, right? They're scarce resources. Things that aren't so scarce, we don't value. So like every guy's begging for a girl, and he's being nice and buying her flowers and doing all these things and communicating overtly rather than covertly, and not communicating with her like she should be communicated with. You need to walk around with an air of understanding that you have value. And if you don't believe you have value, you should sit down and write down the things you do have that are valuable about yourself. And if you can't come up with a list, you got a problem, and you need to take some action on that rather than complain and start begging for a girl. Make yourself the prize. Start seeing yourself that way. You'll get better results. All right, guys, that's all I got for this video. If you got something out of it, you'll definitely want to check out this video right here. And thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss my new videos, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.